Hello, I'm Jo Kimonade, and today I'm talking to John Knorr, CEO and founder of CIS. Hi, John.
Hi, Joe.
And to Ran Narasimhan, who's our Vice President of India region. Welcome to Australia, Ran.
Hi.
Now, Uglii recently sent a team to India, and Rand's obviously out from India to chat with us at the moment. So what work is Uglii doing with India, John?
Well, Rand's been operating there for the best part of a year now and doing some very exciting work in India and opening up a lot of doors in India. We sent a little delegation over to India to meet with Rand and see what he was doing, and I must say I was very, very impressed by what's happening in India. Also, it was my first trip to India and very excited about, the prospects of India and dealing with the Indian people in business. It was really, really good stuff.
It's amazing culture. I was there many years ago.
Yeah, it's amazing and it's exciting. When people are exciting, it's just nice to do business. So we're very excited about India, and we think that the Uglii system is going to do a lot of good for the Indian economy, and we also think we'll develop a nice business there in association with the organisations that Rand's bringing into the system already, and he's got some really good organisations, industry organisations operating in the system.
Can you tell us a few of those organisations, Rand?
Just for an example, there is the Electronic City Industries Association, abbreviated as LCA, and there is AWAKE, which is actually Women Entrepreneurs Association.
Right.
There is IRMA, that is the Indian Resin Manufacturers Association, and this is from Mumbai. And of course, a lot of other associations, particularly industry bodies, the chartered accountants, the lawyers, the architects, their group, they have shown interest. And in fact, Bangalore Builders Association is also a member, they already become an affiliate. We are looking for some big national partners with national presence. We are in talk with a few of them.
Yes, I'm aware of that, who shall remain nameless at the moment.
Yeah, so, but
there's
the good
there's a
prospects.
big telco.
Yeah, one of the big telcos, one of the big retail organizations,
Sure.
and a small scale industries association which has a presence all over India. In fact, their local Karnataka body has already become our member, and they are our affiliates, and we are looking at the national body to become our national partners. So it's exciting time, and people are interested with Uglii.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that we can also see the way forward where the Uglii system is going to help not only the more organised businesses in the Indian economy, but also the businesses that are sort of more on the peripheries of the economy. For instance, Rand's doing some work with an NGO in India that's talking about how to work with Uglii in terms of bringing farmers to get more farmers more involved in the mainstream Indian economy and using the obvious technical resources of India and exploiting those. And there's a big tie-up. There's a big potential tie-up with Uglii there, and that's very exciting.
Sure.
Rand, the other thing that's really exciting me about India is the biometric identification program that's happening in India.
UID.
UID is a very unique program. It is basically to empower the rural masses as well as the poor people, and to see that they get the government allocated help, like public distribution system, health and immunization properties, the rural crop insurance and things like that, directly to the individual persons instead of getting it filtered through the government channel agencies. The experience is, out of every rupee that is being sanctioned by Government of India to reach the rural areas, only 15 paise, that is only 15% reaches the actual beneficiary.
Right.
And with this UID, it is hoped that at least 70 to 75% will reach the beneficiary.
Where was that system invented? Was it invented in India, the UID?
Yeah, UID is basically a necessity today in India, because otherwise there is a lot of unrest in the rural areas because of the high rising cost, unemployment, illiteracy, and lesser of education and things like that. So it's basically a necessity, and it has been driven very well by the current government.
Right.
And the idea is by next another, right now about 4.5 million people are already registered, and the target is by this year end at least about 5 crore, I don't know how much it comes in your millions, I think it's about 50 million people should be registered.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
that's the
amazing.
target.
That's amazing. So obviously you're dealing with some reputable corporations or organisations there. What about any governments? Are you having any discussions with any governments? Either
Yeah,
state
we
or
have.
federal?
I am having discussions with the governments. Basically, I have been talking to the commercial tax department of Karnataka,
Right.
and they have shown some interest. They want to map their various dealers all over the state. And they have about 0.5 million dealers in
0.5 million.
Karnataka, and that's one state out of totally about 29 states.
Oh,
So
I see.
we are trying to see if we could help them in mapping their dealers
Well,
into
they,
the
they're
agri
agents,
system.
are they?
Pardon?
Are they collection agents, are they? Or
No, they are
registered?
regular shops, retail shops. Anybody who does any commercial activity in Karnataka has to register in the Karnataka Sales Act. So
Ah,
it's,
okay.
it's a business number,
Okay.
and it's a business registration. The
Right.
department wants to have their location fixed.
Okay.
So that's where we could be of great help
Sure.
in mapping out the.
Well, we can simply credential
Yes,
those on
yes,
behalf of them.
yes,
Okay, that makes a lot of
that's,
sense.
yeah.
Look, there's so much potential for the Uglii system in India to help the government or governments. You've got the state and the federal governments. Procurement is the other big thing that is going to be very important. The Uglii, what we call spatial marketplace system, really revolutionises procurement. Particularly for governments, it can make it so much more efficient, so there's less waste in terms of overheads. It also makes it, there's more competition and there's more ability of businesses to participate
Right.
in supplying to governments through this process. And what's exciting is that it also gives a very good system to eliminate corruption in procurement. Okay, and that's clearly something that's very high on the agenda of all the governments, I think, in India. And when we talk to business people in India, that's very high on their agenda too. They realise that India's got to get rid of corruption in terms of, particularly in government-related corruption, because it's slowing down investment, and we can see some fairly big examples of that recently, where business have uprooted projects and gone to the less corrupt states in India because they know that they're going to get their permits quicker, and they're not going to have to hand out so much money to backhanders. And so there's a real marketplace thing happening there. And there's one state, Gujarat state, that is particularly doing very well out of these deals because it's got a reputation as being very straightforward and uncorrupt and
Within the government.
within the government, within the state. So
Yes.
we've got a state that's
The state
that's
government.
clean, and so they're getting all of these big projects in there because people who are investing in India, that want to invest in it, India's an exciting place to invest in, don't want the frustrations of having to deal with corrupt officials and those sort of things. So this is a reform process that is absolutely paramount in India. And everybody knows it, and we think that Uglii can contribute a lot to those processes, and particularly in relation to procurement. The Uglii system is very powerful.
Right.
Yeah. See, the recent study on purchasing parity of the various economies has shown that India has moved to the place number 3 in the world. It has overtaken Japan. So you can see the volume of purchases, the purchasing activity or procurement activity,
Sure.
the volume is very high.
Sure.
And definitely because of the high volume, it makes more sense to have put better efficient systems.
Of course.
And I think Uglii would help us in a big way
Absolutely, yeah.
in doing that, and make it more transparent, more efficient, so that more benefit goes to the government
Yeah.
and the people.
And the people.
Yeah,
Sure.
I think Rand, through his efforts and his team in India, are making great progress at reaching the private sector. I think that's
Yeah.
going to happen very quickly, and and the education programs that he's putting in place to educate businesses how to best use the Uglii system will reach into the private sector very well. I think the question mark is over how we reach the government sector, and I think we're not there yet. We've got a long way to go with governments,
we have to.
and governments have got a lot of benefits to get out of the Uglii system in India. Just you can see it everywhere.
Sure.
We just need to make those connections. So, yeah, I think we'll have to make a very concerted effort to reach governments and get them to understand that we can help. And we're not asking them to spend huge amounts of money on buying programs, because for governments, most of the services that we provide are free, okay? So, because they're the procurer, and the procurer in our system doesn't pay any fees. It's the supplier that pays. So governments in procurement can basically use the system without any cost and derive huge benefits. And it's not only benefits in their savings, it's also about participation. And one of the things that the Indian government's working hard to ensure is that business participate more in the economy, aren't they? I mean, and that's what's happening with that rural stuff that Ram was talking about. It's about involvement and getting into the thing and using the technology.
The biggest thing is today empowerment of the rural economy and transparency in the rural government, introducing efficiency in rural governance, and that's a very big thing. And I think Uglii is a platform which can really work well in this environment.
Sure.
Now, the other thing that I think we've got to work hard on is getting perhaps the Indian government but also Indian industry to understand that the Uglii system is a very powerful export tool for the Indian economy. That it makes it easy for business to be discoverable. It also means that it'll help the Indian economy the more other economies are using the Uglii system as well, because if business can see into the Indian economy or what it can buy in the Indian economy, then it's easier for the Indian economy to supply that business. Also, if the Indian industry in India is using the system and saying, well, we're happy to export to Bangladesh or China or Pakistan or wherever it can go, then businesses and governments in those countries have got the opportunity to use Indian suppliers to supply them. It's not only a national interest in this, but the Indian government and the Indian industry should be saying, well, we need the whole Indian subcontinent, in fact we need the whole world to use the Uglii system, because it's going to increase our opportunities.
In fact, I have interacted with few export promotion councils in India. Particularly, I had been only once to New Delhi, and I have met a few of them. The Export Promotion Council for Software Development is already an Uglii affiliate. But the other promotion councils, I couldn't contact them. So they are all interested. One of the things which is very exciting about this thing is the taxonomy, and apart from the fact that it defines the product well, it removes the language barrier. So as John has so many times explained, a Chinese could do the trade in China, but the Englishman could understand it in English, and the day about 13 languages and the other languages come into picture, it will be a great, it will break, with India to other countries, like if you want to do with Spanish speaking people, the Italian people and things like that, even Chinese, which could be a major issue. And the taxonomy and which removes language barrier could really help the trade, particularly for export. And that looks very exciting.
So I guess what we really got to look at there is the issue of sponsorship of translations and how those translations happen.
And there's quite an opportunity there, isn't there, for some...
I mean, we're talking big markets here. And I had a meeting with the Pakistani ambassador, High Commissioner in Australia about this, and we were talking about, there's a lot of shared language, for example, between India and Pakistan. I think Punjabi is
Hindi, Punjabi, similar.
All
they speak both.
Speak both. It would seem to me that there's big public relations opportunities too for one or the other government to be able to do the translation or sponsor the translation, or a big company that wants to have a presence in India and Pakistan to sponsor the translation, because the system, the Uglii system, acknowledges the translator. If somebody's using the system in another language other than English, then there is a little sponsorship thing. This translation is brought to you by the people of India or people of Pakistan or whatever it may be, as a service, you know, or a private company, for example.
Sure.
Great marketing, and the opportunity for a link there to explain why or whatever that may be,
Sure.
or what's on in India or what's on in Pakistan or whatever. So I think there's a lot of opportunities there, commercial opportunities and political opportunities for governments to get involved with just being a little bit creative and thinking about how the Uglii system can be used for not only pure economic benefit, but also some political benefit and some coexistence benefit, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Okay.
So very exciting, and I think if you can sort of, you know, promote that a little bit, that would be very good. Yeah.
In fact, we are talking to a group of people, and we may come out with a proposal for a small translation in Kannada of a particular part of the taxonomy, not the whole of the taxonomy.
Oh, okay.
So I keep my fingers crossed, and that would be an example to see how system can work across the languages.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that'd be exciting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very exciting. If you can get that language barrier down so that I can reach the guy that I want to buy something from, even though he speaks another language.
Yes.
We always work out how to do business when there's money involved.
Right.
Okay, but if I can't identify who I should be talking to,
Yes.
then I've got a big problem. But the Uglii system, of course, lets me identify exactly who I need to be talking to.
Of course.
To do business with that person. So,
Correct.
And it all
or that
goes
business.
by a number system, doesn't it? So that
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
a number for every product, and that number is universal
Yeah,
worldwide.
and I can look at that number in English, or I can look at it in Hindi, or Punjabi, or Chinese, or whatever it may be,
Sure.
and I'm seeing it in the language that I'm comfortable with. So, it's got a whole ability to just cross borders and barriers and language barriers and all of those little things that inhibit business.
Correct.
Yeah.
And allow business to happen quicker and smarter and more easily, and make friendships happen. In the history of man, we seldom fight with the people we're making money from. It's, you know,
Yes.
as simple as that. It's,
Yep.
you know, I don't consider anybody that's my customer my enemy because he's giving me money. He's never my enemy. He's always my friend. So,
Yes, of course.
yeah. So I think this is going to be very exciting, and the fact that RAND's making so much progress in India with this sort of thing, I think is going to be a great illustration to the world of how powerful the Uglii system is.
So, India, the most progressed country in the world as far as the Uglii system being implemented into the country?
Yes, yeah, definitely. It's going very strongly,
Right.
but we like focusing on India because it's a technically savvy country. You know, they've got all of these very powerful services that they provide to the whole world. So the whole economy really is fairly switched on.
Right, and it's a growing economy, isn't it?
Oh hell, it's growing at 6 or 7 or 8%. you
Yeah.
know, so it's really growing.
And they're quite enterprising.
And yeah, and the people are very enterprising.
Yes.
And, you know, I was just delighted the week that I
Yeah.
spent in India with Rand just to meet Indian business people. It was exciting.
So in a way, India will be showcased to the rest of the world.
Absolutely. And you know, there's some problems with India. Let's not be silly about it. There's problems of language, as Rand says. What 20?
Yeah, there are more than 20 languages, official languages. Each state, it's a linguistic state. So there are states within the country, and each language is official language is a different one.
Right.
And there are a
Ugly
lot of
can-
language barriers, and
And
the
ugly
states
can break this.
insist on using the language of the state and not the national language or English language slowly. So there are certain barriers which are there, and Uglii can create, come across this problem of language barrier, and it can provide a platform where businesses and transactions could be done across the language barrier. So that would
Fantastic.
be a great boom.
Yes.
And
yeah.
again, India is also a manufacturing country with a lot of small scale and medium scale entrepreneurs being the maximum.
Sure. Yeah.
And that is where a system like Uglii will help the small scale and medium scale entrepreneurs in a large fashion.
India's fast becoming, is it the second largest supplier and manufacturing supplier of goods, is that correct?
Yeah, it is already.
Oh, it is already.
It's already the largest manufacturer, not the largest, China is the first one.
Sure.
It's the second largest manufacturer of goods and services. And basically it excels in small scale and medium scale enterprise. And niche technical work, you know, like IT, like aviation products, foundry, forge, machining and manufacturing.
And a lot of that's exported as well.
Yes, yes. It's
So
one of the-
obviously there'd be language barriers there as well
Yeah.
that Uglii can help with.
Definitely.
Right.
That's where we are looking for.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So what sort of partners are you looking for? You're looking for national partners in India.
Yeah.
And in what fields?
Basically, broadly, we are looking for one national partner in each vertical. The verticals we have in mind is banking, that's one of the main sector, insurance, then telcos, and the Chamber of Commerces, and of course, government is a very major partner.
Sure.
So, with these broad specifications, also we are looking at professional bodies like accountants associations,
Right.
and then the lawyers, and then the architects, and things like that.
Right.
So, with that will be another set of major national partners.
And so there's a limit to national partners that you can have.
Yes, yes.
So obviously if businesses and corporations
Yeah.
are interested, they
Yes.
need to move on this pretty quickly.
Correct, correct. Yeah.
Okay. And would it be you that people would be dealing with, Rands?
Yeah.
Rand's
yes,
the
yes.
man.
Rand's the man.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming in and talking to us today. Thanks, John. And I hope you
Pleasure,
enjoy the
Jane.
rest of your stay in Australia. And I hope to come and visit you in India very soon.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay.
You will like it.
I have been there and I
Yeah.
did love it. Thank
Oh,
you very much.
Welcome.
Cheers.
Thanks, Jack.